People talk about high IQ as if it is only a privilege, but everything has a cost, and most people never even notice this one. You think faster, deeper, you analyze emotions, individual phrases, and several opposing ideas at the same time, and yes, that can be a gift. But sometimes, the same intelligence that helps you understand the world also makes it harder to feel understood inside it. Maybe people have called you too analytical, too intense, a chronic overthinker, difficult to fully understand. But here's what they rarely realize. You are not trying to make connection complicated. You are trying to feel it completely. And when your mind constantly reaches for depth, clarity, and meaning, ordinary connection can begin to feel strangely incomplete. People may genuinely enjoy talking to you, and still, you may walk away from the conversation feeling like no one really understood you, or even tried to. Today, we are going to look at 7 signs. Your high IQ may be making you feel lonely. And stay until the last one, because it explains the most invisible part of this pain. 1. Most conversations end before they ever reach depth. For many people, a conversation reaches a point where it feels complete. For example, someone says, "He is just a toxic person." Others nod, and for them, the conversation is already over. But inside you, 5 more questions appear immediately. What exactly did he do? Why did he act that way? Is this really toxicity, or was he defending himself? What are we missing from the outside? Your mind keeps asking, keeps analyzing. The problem is not that other people are boring. The problem is that your mind often keeps moving after the shared conversation has already ended. One idea leads to another, then another. And suddenly, the conversation that felt closed to everyone else has only just become interesting to you. So you learn to stop yourself. You become afraid of being too much. You shorten your answer, drop the second question, laugh at the right moment, let the subject die, even though your mind is still alive inside it. Sometimes you even type out the full thought in a message. 3 carefully written paragraphs, finally saying what you actually mean, then you stare at it, delete everything, and send, "Yeah, exactly." From the outside, everything looks normal. You participated, you responded. You were easy to talk to. But something inside you notices it every time, notices how you make yourself smaller, how you compress a thought that deserved to be spoken aloud, how you keep adjusting your rhythm to match everyone else's, again and again, until it starts to feel normal. And at some point, you realize, this is no longer just adaptation. It is a small betrayal of yourself, one that happens so often you almost stop noticing it. And then comes a strange kind of exhaustion. Not exhaustion from people, exhaustion from the version of yourself you keep bringing into the room, trimmed down, convenient, easy. The real you never fully appeared. It stayed inside, together with the 3 paragraphs you deleted. And one day, you catch yourself wondering, am I asking too much from connection, or have I spent too long pretending that half of it is enough? 2. You feel lonelier in a group than when you are alone. Being alone does not always feel lonely to you. Sometimes it feels like relief. You do not have to monitor yourself. You do not have to simplify. You do not have to pretend to be engaged when your attention quietly left the room 10 minutes ago. But the strangest part does not happen in solitude. The sharpest loneliness often appears when other people are around. Here is an ordinary scene. A party. Everyone is laughing. Someone tells a story. The same kind of story you have heard 3 times already. Everyone reacts in the expected way. You smile half a second later, thinking, God, again? Not because you dislike these people, not because you think you are better than them, but because something inside you keeps reaching for more depth than the moment is offering. A study published in the British Journal of Psychology found something interesting. Among people with higher intelligence, more frequent socializing with friends was associated with lower life satisfaction. Not because intelligent people do not need others, but because quantity of interaction is not the same as the quality of interconnection. So you do what socially flexible people do. You adapt, you nod, you smile, you participate just enough not to stand out. But part of you is watching from the outside, thinking, I am here. Why do I still feel alone? And explaining this to people is almost impossible, because from the outside, you look like someone who is doing perfectly fine. 3. You notice what does not add up and slowly learn that not every room wants to hear it. Your mind naturally searches for consistency. If someone says one thing and does another, you notice. If a group repeats an opinion no one has really examined, you notice. If a conversation is emotionally charged but logically falling apart, you notice that too. And at first, you assume that is normal, that people value honesty. Here is an ordinary scene. Dinner with friends. Someone complains about a coworker for the 5th time, the same story. Everyone sympathizes, and you gently say, "Wait, but didn't you say you acted in a similar way last time?" A quiet pause, very short, but you feel it. Someone laughs to release the tension. The conversation moves on, and you understand. Once again, that was not what the room wanted. Not because you were necessarily wrong, but because people do not always want clarity. Sometimes they want comfort. A version of reality that allows everything to stay exactly as it is. Many social situations reward confirmation more than correction, and the person who disrupts that silent agreement is often seen not as honest, but as difficult, too serious, always turning things into a debate, someone who makes it hard to just relax. And you absorb that, not immediately, gradually, after several pauses, several looks, several moments when you realize that honesty is welcome only when it is convenient. So you begin to stay quiet, or to pull away. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you are tired of watching the room change the moment you say what you actually see. And this is where loneliness starts hiding behind self-control. From the outside, you seem calm, selective, in control. Inside, you have simply learned not to say out loud half of what you think. 4. You adapt so well that one day you stop knowing where adaptation ends and self-erasure begins. At some point, you understand the unspoken rule. Your full version is not always convenient for others. So you begin to regulate yourself. Here is an ordinary scene. A coworker explains a decision. You instantly see 3 reasons why it will not work, but instead you say, "Interesting idea. Let's see how it goes." Or you meet someone you genuinely want to speak honestly with. You begin a sentence and then shrink it halfway through. Because you already know that look, the look of a person whose eyes are starting to glaze over. So you soften it, simplify it, make yourself easier to process. You stop explaining the connection your mind just made. You do not ask the question that would make the conversation real. You pretend the simple answer satisfied you, even though it opened 10 more thoughts. And yes, adaptation is normal. Everyone filters themselves sometimes. But when a person regularly suppresses their own thoughts and reactions in order to remain socially acceptable, it can weaken their sense of authenticity and connection to themselves. People begin attaching to the edited version of you. They like not exactly who you are, but who you learn to become in order to fit. Being accepted after simplifying yourself is not the same as being understood. Sometimes it feels more like a reward for disappearing correctly. And the hardest part is this. You do it for so long and so automatically that one day you catch yourself wondering, who am I when I am not adjusting? Write in the comments if this has ever happened to you, and let's keep going. Because the next 2 signs explain why people with high IQ can feel lonely even inside close relationships. Not with coworkers, not at parties, but with the people they trust the most. 5. Your cognitive empathy rarely switches off. You notice not only what people say, but what may be happening underneath it. In psychology, this is related to high cognitive empathy. It is the ability to instantly read inner states, thoughts, feelings, fears, and unspoken motives. Here is an ordinary scene. Someone close to you says, "I'm fine." But the tone was slightly different. The pause before the answer was 1 second longer than usual. And you noticed. The conversation ends, but your mind does not. You replay it while brushing your teeth. Do they simply not want to talk? Or is this about me? If they do not want to talk, does that mean they do not trust me? Or maybe they are trying not to burden me, but I would support them. In combination with anxiety, this sensitivity can become exhausting. The same mind that notices patterns everywhere does not always know how to switch off when the subject is a person you love. And the cruel irony is this: the more you want a real connection, the more careful you may become. You start checking the atmosphere before opening up. You wait for a sign that it is safe. You reveal yourself slowly, in measured doses, and people get to know you, but never fully. Sometimes, too cautiously to ever realize how much was there. 6. You are not looking for attention. You are looking for someone who thinks with you. And that is exactly why you can feel lonely even in close relationships. Because mostly, a person listens until it is their turn to speak. But what you are looking for is something else entirely. You want someone to take your thought, turn it around, add something you did not expect, and return it, but deeper. Here is an ordinary scene. You share something important, not just a fact, a thought you took a long time to arrive at. The person listens, nods, says, "Yeah, interesting." And that is it. The conversation moves on. Research shows, for people with high intelligence, the quality of communication is more important than its quantity. They do not just need a conversation partner. They need someone who thinks with them, not next to them. And when that is missing, the loneliness becomes difficult to explain. Because from the outside, everything looks normal. You have people who respect you, people who admire your mind. But admiration is not intimacy. Being recognized as intelligent is not the same as feeling truly heard. And this kind of hunger is hard to explain to someone who has never felt it. 7. People come to you for answers, but almost no one genuinely asks how you are. A friend calls late at night. Their relationship is falling apart. You listen. You find the pattern. You say the one sentence that suddenly makes everything clear. They exhale. They thank you. They feel lighter. And then comes the standard polite question, "So, how are you?" And you say, "I'm fine," just so you do not burden them. The person has just poured their heart out, and you do not want to weigh them down with your own issues. Or maybe you finally decide to speak, you open up, and the answer you get is, "I get it. Well, you'll figure it out, you're smart." And in that moment, something inside you quietly closes. Because you suddenly realize people come to you for your mind, but not for you. They like the result, your precise words, your ideas, your ability to break their problem down into atoms. To them, you are an instrument that brings clarity. But being useful is not the same as being understood. The loneliness of an intelligent person is not when you have no one to talk to. It is when you are surrounded by people, but you cannot truly enjoy the connection and feel heard and understood. You always show only the part of yourself that they can handle. If you are tired of doing this, it means it is time to look for your own people and stop betraying yourself. Those who will not be intimidated by your depth. The opposite of loneliness is not a crowd of smart people. It is at least one person for whom you do not need to make yourself smaller. So be honest. Which of these 7 signs hit closest to home? Write the number or your thoughts in the comments and subscribe. Let this channel become a place where your mind does not have to shrink in order to be understood.